Hello and welcome to Into the Light. I'm your host, Edina Mauvana. Today we have Gissell Torres. Gissell is a certified spiritual and life purpose coach who has helped individuals transform their mindset and find purpose in life. With customized private coaching, she guides her clients to blast through limiting beliefs and fears, cultivate positive thought patterns and behaviors, and align with their life purpose, goals, and power. She specializes in inner work, breath work, self-love, connection, movement, purpose, and self-awareness, and all kinds of things. Thanks so much, Gissell. I love that. Thanks for having you today. How are you doing?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm doing fantastic. Very excited to talk to you today.
I know, I'm excited to have you. And I just am so excited about the work you do. I've been following you, I know, on Instagram and Facebook for a few months, and I'm just hearing some great stories about all the things you post about manifestation and, overcoming limiting beliefs and all of that stuff. So I'm just super excited to have you here today, and wanted to hear a little bit about how you got into this work. Obviously, I do talk to a lot of coaches and healers and different things, but I know you have a great story, and you told me a little bit earlier, a little bit about you from Ecuador, right? So can you tell me a little bit? Yeah, tell me a little bit about how you got into this work.
Absolutely. Well, I'll try to make the long version short.
No worries.
And so just a little background. So I was born in Ecuador. I was raised there as well. I came to the States when I was 14 years old, and I moved to Miami, and I lived there for most of my young adult life. Lived in California for a couple of years for my undergrad, and went back, and now I'm back in California.
Okay, great.
The San Diego area, just living the best life, because this part of California is so beautiful. And so all in all, I've been in the States for over 20, it's going to be 20 years. That's crazy.
Wow. Well,
Time flies. Thank you so much. So to go back to your question, how did I get into this life coaching work? So that's a long story that started as a young child. When I was little, I was a very precocious child, reading self-development books when I was 8, 9 years old. What does a 9-year-old have to do with figure out my life at 9 years old, right? I would get my parents' books and read them, hiding from them, because I just didn't know whether it was okay or not to read these books.
Oh,
But
really? Was it like
now,
kind of a taboo thing to read something outside of whatever your faith or your culture?
well, not necessarily, but because they were serious books that had to do with themes of death,
Mm,
even like abuse and just trauma. I,
mm.
I I inherently I knew that those weren't themes that I should be reading at 9 years
Oh,
old.
interesting. Yeah,
Also, the fact that
exactly.
parents think that they hide things from their kids and then they stash them away, but I couldn't find those things.
That's
But
totally.
I found these books and just read them, and I'm not sure how I processed that information when I was so little, but it definitely opened my mind to there's this type of conversations that people are talking about, and that seemed interesting to me. Since I was little, I always felt this pull that I had this big mission in the world, this message that I wanted to get out, but I didn't know what that was. People tend to say like, oh, you're special because you have these gifts or these talents, but I didn't know inherently what my natural gifts or talents were. And
Mm,
so you grow into the world and you get conditioned by culture, by your family, by society. You lose that interest in order to please those that have better hopes for you, quote unquote. So then I started living on my parents' expectations and what they wanted for me. And you sort of start shutting down that spark, that magic that you felt when you were so little, when you felt so attached to your
mm.
passion, but you couldn't put words into what that was because you didn't know. And unfortunately, for most of us, we tend to grow up with unconscious parents, not to their fault, but it's just the way that it is. And it's something that we're trying to heal from that and move into a better consciousness when it comes to parenting and just living. And so I didn't have somebody looking over me saying, oh, you're really great at listening to people or holding space or having this higher perspective on life that not a lot of people have. And so to college, I went into school thinking, okay, well, I don't think I know myself enough to know what the message is. So I got into communications and advertising with the end goal of, well, I don't know my message, so I'm going to amplify somebody else's message.
Mm.
And so I started there, knowing that there was meaning in a message. there was meaning in trying to be impactful through messaging, meaning marketing or communications, which is what I majored in. That led me to corporate America and working a corporate position under social media marketing and digital marketing. And so I did that for about 5 years until my soul started knocking. I started getting impatient and anxious and just starting to think, what am I doing with my life? This doesn't fulfill me. I don't feel like that I belong here. And the truth is, in the past, before I went into communications, I always jobbed from job to job, just trying to find that passion. Like I did so many jobs, but I'm like, okay, is this what it is? No. Is this what it? No. So I always was in this chase and this discovery of what's my passion, because there hasn't been any other objective before I think I turned 30 where I wasn't looking for that fire in my heart.
And your passion.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that passion tends to be attached to your talents or how you even portray your talents or your innate skills. And all of my skills up to that point had been nurtured and nothing that had been innately out of me, right? Or at least I didn't know how to put that together. So my 30s came around, and then that's when I just decided to quit my corporate job and start a freelancing business. And I'm like, I created my own digital marketing agency, and I'm like, okay, while I'm doing this and, you know, providing for myself and my family, I'll also start exploring life and see what else I can do or what else can I dive into. And that led me into trying being a fitness coach, and I loved it, but I was like, no, this is not it. And then after I started going through the same familiar cycles that I had applied to my life before then, because in my head, you had to have a structure in order to make life happen. And that structure for me was, you get an idea of what you want to do, then you go to school for it, then you get a degree, and then, you know, you start figuring out whether you like that thing or not. And I had done that about 4 times already. And I'm
my gosh.
Okay, yes. And halfway through my last degree, I was like, no, this is not the way. This is not working. And so I didn't finish that last degree because it just wasn't aligning. I knew that wasn't the route anymore. And the environment that I was going into, which was deeper into the advertising world, it just wasn't aligning with who I was. I just didn't feel meaning in sharing somebody else's message that had to do around capitalism. You know?
Just the marketing or the normal corporate America grind, getting burned out of that.
Correct. And what's funny with that is that that path started for me in 2018, which was a little before the pandemic. So by the time the pandemic came and people are spiritual experiences and like knowing that the regular thing is not working anymore, I had been on that for like 2 years by then. I was almost coming down from it, and I'm like, I know what you're going through.
So this was like your own spiritual awakening. Did you have your own kind of process that you went through where you had to heal through a lot of, I don't know, maybe you had some generational trauma? I know you mentioned the people pleasing and things like that from a childhood. So did you have a whole healing experience in this process?
Absolutely. So after I decided that the same cycle wasn't working, I decided to go into self-discovery. And I'm like, okay, who am I? Right. And the way that I started diving into the who am I question was first I was like, okay, let me try meditation. And through meditation, it was that I found consciousness.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, even though, and I think we talked a little bit about this before the call, where spirituality had started unfolding for me since I was 18 years old by reading past life regression books. So I was already privy into this field, and I'm like, okay, there's more to this whole thing. And that's also where the anxiety came from, where like I knew that I was living this life that was orchestrated by culture, by society, by my family, that didn't feel like mine. And I knew that there was more to what I was doing externally. That journey, it took me from I was 18 years old to maybe 28 years old, to like 10 years before I decided there's more to this. And so then I dove into the discovery of me, and it wasn't through meditation that I discovered there's a consciousness. And I knew there's a soul, that we have souls, but I didn't know that you could talk to it. I didn't know that you could communicate, right? And so I had this moment of, and it happened out of nowhere in like the most ordinary way, where I had been in a little argument with my partner, and right before we went down to sleep, I had this like very out of body experience where I stepped back as me and observed my ego and my consciousness, where the insight was like, well, you could decide to react and fight and be in your ego and start over the fight that you were having, or you can decide not to react. That moment where that insight came through, where I was like, I could decide not to react. What is that?
Wow, that's like your intuition telling you something, right?
Yes. And so then after that, I was like, whoa, I have to know more. And then after that, it was like, I think for a lot of us, when we go down the spiritual path, you start with that insight, with that moment, and then you go down rabbit holes. So,
Yeah. And sorry, did you come from a normal Christian background, or what was your religious like upbringing? Because I know that some of this stuff, when you start talking about past life work, like you kind of take a left turn off from more traditional or belief systems, right? So did you go through some of that in your, spiritual journey?
I did at the beginning when I first got to the States, because Ecuador and the majority of South America, they're the majority is it's a Catholic
Yeah.
religion. So I was brought up in church, in Catholic church, and it wasn't until I got to the States where I saw this other religions and these other churches and these other ways of thinking, that I was like, I want to try these other churches. And my mom wasn't into it at all.
No, of course. They're
No, that's
very
what are you
strict.
doing? So I had started separating myself from the church since maybe 16 years old, to the point where like I no longer identify as a Catholic or anything. I'm just like spiritual,
Okay, so you don't identify as Christian currently. You just as okay. So more just general spiritual. Okay.
Exactly. And then, that opened up my view into reading more books about everything under the sun. And,
Mm-hmm.
what I do think that the Catholic Church gave me was just blind faith into a greater creator, and that's something that I've taken with me until now, where like I just have faith that I am supported through this whole life experience. And that served me very well in the sense that I have deep faith in that. But when it came to spirituality and all the rabbit holes that I was encountering, so another thing about the I guess Latin people, or maybe South America, is that we're not obtuse to like maybe like the word magic, or or astrology, or people going into this like dark concepts. So there's that conversation, but it's still kind of like looked down upon. But I knew about it, so I wasn't fearful of it, and I didn't. It wasn't totally out of my view. And
yeah, because you said as a kid you were reading kind of these more adult materials anyway, so darkness was part of the human experience when you were a kid, right?
Correct. So that helped a lot. And I feel like I've always been open-minded to anything. And so, I've always tried to take everything with a grain of salt, and just take in whatever feels right.
Yeah.
And so, and then so I kept going with my spiritual journey, and that wasn't even the climax part of my spiritual awakening. That was just kind of like the beginning. And then it wasn't until 2 years ago that I decided to move to San Diego with my partner, where I was away from family. It was just me and myself, and my puppy and my partner, and it's time to go to work, right? But I was still trying to transition out of my marketing career, and I couldn't let it go. And I know there was a deep fear there that I hadn't tapped into. And ultimately, my spiritual awakening came through when I saw that, well, another type of spiritual, it was more like an ego death, right? Where
Oh,
I
ego
saw
death.
that it was an ego death more than a spiritual awakening, because that was back in 2018. But so that ego death came through as an insight of, you're putting all of your value on your productivity. You're putting your
Right.
value and worth on how much money you make. And so when I discovered and that was still attached to that, living under somebody else's expectation, right? Because
Right.
I grew up with that. It's like, are you busy? Like, you have to be constantly busy in order to show how much value you
How
have.
your value you are. Yeah, like you're a lot of women were programmed that our value is tied to our how much we can produce or put out or product or give to the household or whatever, out, giving just how much we can take on. It's like I had that also, like overload programming.
Exactly.
Like
And
I have to be busy so that I'm the more busy I am, the better I am. Yeah,
exactly. Or if you're not sacrificing your entire being, then who are you? If
yeah.
you're not, if you're just looking out for yourself, then you're totally selfish. Like we're programmed that way. And I feel like it's starting to change. But for me, that was the catalyst where I was like, okay, I was 33 at the time. And I was like, you have a choice right now. You either go full in into really going for what you want, or you continue to grease the wheel of productivity and just working for the sake of working and making money for the sake of making money, or you can choose this other route, which is a lot more scary, but
Yeah.
it's a lot more bliss and joy and pleasure out of the things that we fear, because that's how we grow. Like there's expansion only comes through feeling the fear.
Right. Yeah.
So I decided to take the leap and fearfully go forward. And that's when
Mm.
I decided to launch into my life coaching career, which, funny enough, 5 years before that, 8 years before that, Tony Robbins had come into my orbit, right?
Oh, okay.
Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what is that guy doing, being like motivating people?
Motivation. Yeah.
I like that, but I didn't know at the time that was even a career choice. I didn't know
Oh my gosh.
what you could do, or what do you even have to have in order to like motivate people. And so, and there's a lot of just like we talked about, like self-worth and self-value and just self-belief that you have what it takes to do that. And one thing that I learned early on in this discovery of the self was that whenever you resist or you admire a certain talent or skill in somebody else, it's only that reflection of yourself, of what you're looking or what you already possess within you.
Mm.
So I took that to the heart, and I was like, this motivation thing has been in my orbit for a while, and it
Mm-hmm.
excites me. I want to give it a try. And so that's when I decided to go get my life coaching certification, and my new chapter started.
Amazing. Well, it's such a gift to, want to give and serve people this way and, make people's lives better. I feel like, yeah, it is such a calling. It sounds like you were, super drawn to this path and, that's what makes you great at it. So that's wonderful. And now you're fulfilling your soul purpose and your soul calling. And so, yeah, tell me a little bit about who you're working with. Like what are, like, I know you primarily work with women, but you also work with men. Like, who are you seeing come to you, or that, you best serve in this work that you do? Is there a certain type of, person that is your most ideal client, or a person that you love to try and find and work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first started out my journey into life coaching, one of the things that I kept hearing is that the medicine that you gave to yourself, your own challenges, and who you became outside of those challenges, is the same medicine that you are able to provide to others. And
Oh, I love
so,
that.
yes. And so I decided, okay, so my whole life journey has been about finding this passion that all along was inside of me. It had nothing to do with what I looked for in the external, and also this meaning and discovery of purpose and discovery of self. I had gone through that from a young age, and finally walked myself through those phases and that journey, where I came out of it and I decided for myself that I needed to take the steps and be courageous to walk a passionate life, to walk a life with purpose. And so starting out, I made the decision that I want to be the blueprint of those people, the people that I'm going to be helping. And so
nice.
So far, the men and women, and we talked about how a lot of the time when it comes to life coaching or people looking for life coaching, it tends to be primarily women. And so I do work with a ratio of like 6-4, like mainly being women, and then I have helped men as well. But usually people come to me because they're feeling lost, or they're going through a crisis or a transition in their lives, and they don't know how to handle it, or they don't even know what's on the other side of this transition. And often when people are saying, I feel lost, or I don't know who I am, or I don't have the clarity of my next steps, oftentimes, that's like 99.9% of the time, it's because they haven't taken the time to get to know themselves.
Right.
The minute I start working with them and we start uncovering who you've been up to now in your life, and who you want to be, and how we align those things in order for you to fully live your life with joy, with peace, feeling fulfillment, and in purpose, you have to go deep into the discovery of yourself. And so I walked them through, just healing traumas of the past, growing a new mindset, setting new beliefs, discovering who this new person is, who they want to be, and aligning to that future self, and giving them a roadmap for steps that they need to take afterwards. And so, when looking around and experiencing life coaching and experiencing different courses and programs that I've been through on self-development, one thing that I've noticed is that there's a piece of embodiment that's missing.
Okay.
And embodiment is mainly, how do you take everything that you've learned, the insights, the lesson, the wisdom, and how do you put it into practicality, which is embodiment, right? How do you embody those lessons?
It's like, first you get the map, right? You said you get the process, but how do you actually get to the embodiment of your like best and highest self, right? With law of attraction and all this. Yeah. So I love this.
Right. Yes,
you're teaching us how to do it.
Exactly. And so I feel like that's the part that's missing from a lot of courses, programs in the self-development field, but also within people as well, because I've met clients that come to me halfway through their journey, where like, I've read all of this self-development books,
so much, right?
And it's because you keep reading, but you haven't put it into practice. There's the thing that's so much. Exactly. There's only so much that you can read before it hits you on the head, where like, okay, I'm not changing. Well, you're not changing because you're not embodying what you're reading. And it's not necessarily that you have to embody everything that people tell you or what you read, but it's like, okay, you take the message, take with you what resonates at soul level, what you need at this moment, and put it into practice. It's a daily practice of embodiment, and who you become on the other side of your trauma, of your fears, of a life live and stuck, is how you embody that.
Right. And so you said daily practices. So do you basically prescribe for your, I know you're not a doctor, but for your clients, like, are you on do you work with them to figure out exactly what those daily practices, should be for themselves, or what do you do exactly? Because, I know, like, I come from a Muslim background, and we have like 5 daily prayers, and that's how we connect to God, and, all of this stuff. And I feel like, with manifesting work, also you're connecting to source energy or to spirit, and so it's spiritual work you're doing. And so I feel like the piece that's missing, like you said, is the day-to-day, like, practices that are gonna, get you there. So I'm curious, what are those daily things that you suggest your clients do, or how do you work out like what they're gonna be doing every day to embody this? Because that's what you said we need to do. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it takes getting to know my clients, and we go through like a trial and error type of process to see what really resonates with them, because I can have them if you don't like writing, I can have you journaling every
Journal,
day.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, you know, if you don't like reading books, I can have you reading books every day. And
yeah.
then so I adapt all these practices to not only their lifestyle, but what they prefer and how, and the type of learner they are, right? So there's learners that are visual, that are more audio, that are more, you know,
Totally, yeah. Tactile, yeah.
tactile. I missed the word, but yes. And so it's it's various amounts of practices, and that I don't want to fill you up with practices that you're not going to do at the end of the day. So we focus on starting with one or two. So that may be a gratitude practice and a short meditation practice. And you know, you come to me and like, okay, the gratitude thing is working, but the meditation, I can't handle it. Okay, let's move from because there's people that don't like to meditate, and that's
Yeah, this is very good.
okay.
Customized, yeah, approach.
Exactly. Although I'm a fan of meditation, and I feel like once you're um evolved enough in your spirituality, you know that meditation, it just needs to be part of that connection.
Yeah, it's hard though. People struggle with, I mean, I don't say it's hard. I'm saying it's not hard. It's easy, but
Exactly. But then, you know, I also respect where people are in the journey, and also respect the fact that not everybody has a spirituality as a concept that they want
right.
to live by. And so
Yeah.
whatever works for you, right? And so if you don't like meditation, okay, let's move into 5 minutes of breath work. Let's feel into that, because the meditation, breath work, or all this type of you know, practices, what it gives you a moment of presence, right? And in the moment of presence, you learn how to be without having to do all the time. And in that process of being, you learn that not everything deserves your immediate reaction. You learn that there's somebody that resides within your breath and your consciousness. You learn that life could be taken a little bit easier if you just stop and breathe for a second. You know?
Yeah, slow down, slow the motion down.
Slow it all the way down. Slow it all the way down. And you know, and paired with that, I do one thing that I do just give them as a, is like there's no option in a way. It's affirmations. You know,
okay, that's the mandatory one.
That's the mandatory one.
Because that makes gratitude, because we need gratitude.
Exactly, because the thing about affirmations is that as fluffy as it may sound, or as like popular as it may be, paired with manifestation, what affirmations do is a repeated interrupt pattern of your regular thoughts. You know, if we stop to think, or even put into paper how many thoughts we think a day and how many of those thoughts are negative, we would be slapped in the face. And so
what are you thinking?
Exactly. No, if we had to slap ourselves every time we thought negatively about ourselves, we would be super messed up in the face. And so, you know, I do try to sort of mandatory affirmations as a pattern interrupt, and also as a way to make you aware of your language, because as you know, the language that we use in and out, and consciously or unconsciously,
right,
how we talk to people, how we talk to ourselves, it's just all this vocabulary that we're using on a daily basis that may be detrimental to who you want to be, right? And it's just as simple as, you know, once I became aware and I saw how I was talking, one thing that I would always used to say is like, oh, you're such an idiot, or I'm such an idiot.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, it's almost like part of you where you don't even think about what you're saying.
Yeah.
But then when you're thinking about it, it's like, wait, I've been calling myself an idiot for like at least 5 times a day for like, I don't know how long. And so that repeated pattern, that repeated vocabulary stays in your subconscious mind, where at a subconscious level, you're believing that you're an idiot. You know?
Yeah.
And so that affirmation process gives you a pattern interrupt where you're learning to be more conscious about the words that you use. And so, you know, pairing that with, if my clients are into journaling, I definitely have them journal at least for 3 minutes at the end of the night to dump their thoughts in a page so that they can sleep better. And it's also a way of finding insight in the lessons of your day and how that applies to the bigger picture of your life.
Amazing. Well, yeah, that's awesome that you really get people on track, get their life on track so that they can be embodiment of what they're really the best and highest version of ourselves. And I just love that work you're doing. I talk a lot about law of attraction and manifesting, and this is right in line with what I think we're all dealing with right now, right? We're all trying to process through our limiting beliefs and our negative self-talk and all of that negative judgment and guilt and shame programming that we are, like, I think more and more of us are becoming aware of in this consciousness. It's like the human consciousness awakening, right?
Yeah.
So this is a process that we're all dealing with, and we all need coaches and we need guides and help, and I think people need your help. And it sounds amazing to work with you. So do you work with people, like, it sounds like primarily one-on-one? Do you also do group coaching, or what are you kind of working on right now? And who are you kind of like what kind of transformation are people able to see when they work with you?
Yeah. So right now, primarily I do one-on-one coaching, and that
Okay.
happens through primarily Zoom. I do group coaching, but that's more with local workshops. So I'm
Okay.
doing local workshops on purpose and self-discovery, and then we have like a group coaching session. In the future, I do want to create a group coaching program. So it's like, the utmost reach for people that want these transformations. And I'm excited about that because I do thrive on the great energy of people. So I want to experience myself more in this type of settings and just
Yeah.
feeling into the heart of people. And usually the people that find themselves into this type of groups are people that are driven to change, to to create a better life, to create a better world around them. So I love being in that energy. So that's coming soon. And then the transformations that people ultimately find are a little diverse because, I had a client, once that was like, I'm lost. I don't know what I want to do with my career. So we went through the whole process. She actually found out that she also wanted to do life coaching at the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, people like to do it after they see you do it.
Right. There's some benefit. It's funny because it's energy likes the same type of energy, and so the energy of a coach tends to be a little nurturing, and so people that come to me, I have that nurturing energy, but they haven't found it yet, and so they
Right.
looked for somebody in order to be nurtured. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the times it's like processing traumas, processing difficult situations that they've gone through, and then getting them to a point where like their nervous system is
Oh,
regulated
yeah.
in order to have better responses in life. And so that you are coming to life with a more calm approach and more clarity from a sense of self-belief and self-trust, rather than I want to make a decision because this is the type of future I want and this is the outcome that is promised. No, the future is not promised. The only thing that you could do is have clarity in who you are, clarity in your steps, and then have faith that you're supported in order to get to where you want to be. And so, like I was saying with my client, she ultimately found out that she wanted to also be a coach. So she started doing all the process to become a coach, and then ended up divorcing her husband, which is not a prescribed thing, but a lot of the times
It
when
can happen.
it
Yeah.
can
It's you
happen,
go through this journey at work and you
exactly. And so, there's this type of transformations where you find ultimately what you want to do or what your passions are, and then
Mm.
you start doing the process of walking life with purpose, and then immediately in your life things start falling away because they no longer align with the energy that you want to move forward in life. And
Yeah,
that may
amazing.
be your partners.
Yeah, those people that are holding us in a different vibrational state, right? um,
Absolutely, because that's so important. If you're not aligning with your same energy, then it's gonna drag you down, and it's gonna make it more difficult for you to step into your power.
right.
And then the other type of transformations that people get is just like they truly find themselves. They know what their values are. They have self-trust. They have self-confidence. They have the clarity to make decisions in order to have a life that creates joy, peace, that
Mm.
has purpose. And then they start choosing projects, jobs, careers that are a lot more aligned with that new self, and they
Yeah,
feel
this
more
is great.
fulfilled. The ultimate, I feel, the ultimate experience from us humans that they want to feel is to feel fulfilled. Because
Definitely.
if
Yeah.
you're going to bed at the end of the day feeling stressed and hating your job and hating your life, then there's something then that is not aligned to what you're doing.
Mm.
So
Right.
fulfillment is one of the great promises out of my program. Along,
Amazing.
along with just like, relationships, your relationships improve, your happiness improves. It's a whole ecosystem
Yeah,
of.
and you even mentioned your nervous system regulation. So that's you, it sounds like you have, and I know that that can lead into whole medical and our physical ailments, but it sounds like, from a holistic perspective, this is healing on a lot of levels, not just, one specific area of your life, right? It can have a ripple effect through your whole through every area, right?
Exactly. And that's why
Mm,
I love life coaching, because like you said, it's a holistic approach. You can't
yeah,
just look at the problems that you're having and try to solve them. No, it's how you react, it's how you feel. We have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have
right.
an ethereal body. So all of those are you. And so I can't just look at one thing.
Amazing. Well, that's awesome. I love when you have a holistic approach and you also have it very like tailored, like we mentioned earlier. You have all different methodologies that people can use if they don't like this, and then they can try that, meditations and and daily affirmations that we all need. And yeah, I think that sounds amazing. So if someone's listening, where can they find you, or where are you, most present right now if people want to find you or get in touch with you?
Yes, my main point of contact is Instagram. So on
Okay.
Instagram, I am soul, as an SOUL, work coach. So soul work coach.
Full work coach.
And
Yeah.
you can find me there, and I have all my links there. And if you want to go straight into my website, it's also soulworkcoach.co. And I
Uh-huh.
have all of my offerings listed there, and anything that you want to find. And if you just want to say hi, I love having conversations in the DMs, and I love just celebrating people for who they are. So do go into my DMs, because I do respond.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, really good personal, you were very responsive, easy to communicate with. So I definitely think people should reach out to you. And yeah, any final words before we wrap, or last thoughts for any listeners who, might be listening and excited to maybe work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, in order for us to reach our purpose or to live with purpose, we have to be committed and responsible to the work that it takes to get there. And the work
Right.
is simply self-discovery. Since we're born, we're conditioned to be somebody else. And so once we're adults, we're responsible to figure out who we were before that conditioning. And so
Mm,
life with joy, peace, fulfillment, it's outside of that fear that you're trying to resist from doing the work. So whether with me, if you work with me, or just for yourself, if you're in a spot where you feel stuck, where you feel lost, where you don't feel clear about life is telling you to go in, not out. The responses the answers that you're looking for won't be found in the external, unless life wants to give you a person and then they teach you how to like come out of that shell. But if you're trying to take responsibility for your own life, for your own path, go in to find out what are the things that are keeping you stuck. Because a lot of the times, those things that keep you stuck are just mindsets, beliefs, things that are not real, and that you can
wow. Yes.
build upon and grow out of, and grow a new set of beliefs and create the life that you want.
That's amazing. Yes, I love it. And going inward, I mean, that is that's a theme throughout like all the religious and spiritual practices. I mean, I think we're learning a lot about what it means to do this work and to be human and connect with our soul level, whatever that might be for anyone. It's like we're getting these kind of universal understanding of it. So I just love that, that you bring that energy in. And
Mhm.
yeah, your work sounds amazing, Gissell. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I had so much fun talking to you, and I hope this is not the last time.
Yeah, I want to have you on again. We'll definitely, we didn't even dive into a lot of the topics that we were thinking we might get into. So, yeah,
We
this
have
is
to
great.
get more. We have to get more mystic with it,
Yeah, we're gonna
Fun
go.
way.
Woo! I love it. I love it. Okay, great. Well, I'm so excited to have you on, Gissell. And yeah, this is not going to be the only time. So we look forward to having you again. And I'll have all your links listed at the bottom of this episode. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye bye.